much part is there, so that chapter is over. Then we will go to next chapter, which is chapter number 7, and it talks about deadlocks. Okay, and in I think in which chapter? Previous to previous chapter, we have seen how deadlock will occur in a dining philosopher problem. Okay, and also we have told that if we swap the last entry, then we can solve that deadlock problem. Okay, so here we will see some generic solution for all the deadlock problem. Okay, so what is a deadlock? You already know about that. If system cannot move further, that means no other process can be executed, then it is a deadlock situation. Okay, so system consists of resources. We already know that system consists of lots of resources, and processor ask for those resources. Okay, resources like printer, hard disk, memory, CPU time, all these are called resources. Okay, to complete the execution of a process, they need resources. Okay, so uh, these are already mentioned here. IO devices, memory space, CPU cycle, these are all resources. Each resource type Ri has Wi instances. So what is resource and what is instances? Resource means it is the hardware that process will use, and instances means how many number of same type of resource exists. That means suppose if we will connect 5 different printers, then the printer resource have 5 instances. Okay, understood? The resource and the instances. This resource, how many number of process can use this resource at the same time? Sometimes the resource is only one, so that only one process can use. And sometimes if it is dual core CPU or multi core CPU, then the number of resources will be more than a single CPU. Okay, in dual core CPU, the number of instances is 2 for CPU resource. Okay, so like that, uh, we have to define each resource as how many number of instances. Okay, each process utilize a resource as follows. That means it will first ask, it will request for a resource. If the resource is available, it will use it, and then it will release for other processes. Okay, uh, inside our system, deadlock will happen if all these 4 conditions will be satisfied simultaneously. Okay, if all these 4 conditions will be happening at the same time, then that means there is a deadlock inside our system. Okay, so what are the 4 conditions? First one is mutual exclusion. That means what? Only one process at a time can use a resource. If this is the condition, then deadlock may happen if all other 3 will also holds good at the same time. Okay, so mutual exclusion means what? Only one process can use the resource at any given time. Okay, that means that resource has only one instance. Hold and wait. What is hold and wait? As the name suggests, a process is holding at least one resource, and it is waiting to acquire additional resources held by other processes. Okay, what is hold and wait? Hold means one process is holding one resource, and it is waiting for other resources which are again held by other processes. Okay, that is called hold and wait, because other processes has hold that additional resources, so till now this process cannot able to get the resource. Okay, next is no preemption. No preemption means what? Already we have seen what is preemption and no preemption. Preemption means a resource can be released only voluntarily by the process holding it. That means if a process is holding one resource, if process wants, then only this resource will be free. After that, process has completed its task. So when it will release this resource? When this process has finished its task, then only it will release this resource. Okay, then it is called no preemption. What is preemption? Preemption means the process will release this resource even if his task is not yet completed. Okay, but to go into deadlock, we need no preemption. That means the process will not release this resource until his task is done. Circular wait means what? There exists a set P0 to Pn. These many number of set of processes are there of waiting processes. These are all waiting processes such that P0 is waiting for a resource that is held by P1, P0 is waiting for a resource held by P1, P1 is waiting for a resource held by P2, and dot dot dot. Pn is looking for a resource that is held by P0. So that means there is a circle. Okay. P0 is waiting for P1, P2 is waiting for P2, Pn is waiting for P0. Okay. So Pn is waiting for a resource that is held by P0. That means there exists a circle. If there is a circle, then no process can move further. Okay. Then there will be a deadlock. So if all these conditions will be satisfied at the same time, then only we will tell that the system is in deadlock condition. So to understand how this looks like, the deadlock looks like, we represent the situation in a graph called resource allocation graph or RAG. Okay. So obviously if it is a graph, it will have some vertices, it will have some edges. Okay. So let's go to direct to the example here. Vertices may be a process, vertices may be a resource. Process is represented by circle, resource is represented by a rectangle type of box. And inside that there will be some dot. Dot means what? This is a instance of this resource. Okay. So that means this resource is only one instance. This resource has two instances, so two process can able to use this resource at the same time. This resource is three instances. So at a time, three process can able to use this resource. Okay, so this is how a resource allocation graph looks like. Okay. So vertices B is partitioned into two types. Vertices can be process, vertices can be resource. Okay. Then edge is of two types. One is request edge, one is assignment edge. Okay. So request edge is directed from process to resource. Request edge is process to resource. That means process I is requesting for a resource J. It is request edge. Assignment edge is resource J is allocated to process I. That means this process is holding this resource. Okay. So from this graph, if you can see process P1, it is requesting for R1, it is holding the resource R2. Okay. If it is R2 to P1, that means R2 is held by P1. If P1 to R1, then it is requesting for this resource. Okay. So if P1 to R1, then it is requesting for resource. If resource to process, that means it is held by that process. Okay. That resource is already with this process. Okay, so these are the notations. So this is the example of a resource allocation graph. This resource is not held by anyone or nobody is requesting for this resource. That means there is no edge. This is a resource allocation graph with a deadlock. Why there is a deadlock? Because there might be some circle exist in between them. Okay, so let's see where is the circles. So let's start with P1. P1 to R1, R1 to P2, P2 to R3, R3 to P3, P3 to R2, R2 to P1. So there is a circle. Okay. So if there is a circle, there might be deadlock. So in this case, it is a deadlock condition. But I will tell you another case where even if there is a circle exists, that might not be a deadlock condition. Okay. But if there is a circle exists, there is a high chance that there will be a deadlock. Okay. It is a deadlock example. Let's see this one. Here process P1 is requesting for R1, R1 is held by P3, P3 is requesting for R2, R2 is held by P1. So there is a circle exist in between P1 and P3. Okay, but it is not a deadlock. Can anybody tell me why it is not a deadlock, even if there is a circle exists? Anyone? Why there is no deadlock in this case? Because there is a circle between P1 and P3. Still there is no deadlock. Yes. So other instances of R1 and R2 are used by P2 and P4. So whenever P2 and P4 will be completed, they will leave this resource. Yes. Sadhana, Jesse, nice. And Subramanian, Anissa, very nice. So you can see this, that R1 one instance is held by P2 and R2 one instance is held by P4. So P2 and P4 will complete their task. So whenever they will complete, P3 will be assigned with R2. And whenever P2 will be completed, P1 can easily get instance of R1. So in that case, there will be no deadlock. Okay. So at that time, P1 can complete its task, P3 can also complete its task. So that's why there is no deadlock even if there is a circle. Okay. So there are some basic facts is, if graph contains no circle, no cycle, that means there is no deadlock. But if graph contains cycle, there is a chance that there will be deadlock, but it is not confirmed. So if graph contains a circle, if only one instance per resource type, then deadlock. If there is only one instance is there and there is a circle, then only it will be a deadlock. If there are multiple instances, there might not be any deadlock. So if several instances per resource type are there, possibility of deadlock is there, but it is not confirmed. Okay, like here we have seen, there is a possibility of deadlock, but it is not a deadlock because they will release these resource instances after some time, so they can continue. P1 and P3 can continue after some time. Okay. How to handle this deadlock? Okay, if deadlock will appear, or we can prevent those deadlock, we can avoid those deadlock, or we can tell that if let the system enter into the deadlock and then we will recover it, or we will ignore there is something called deadlock inside our operating system. We will just ignore. Okay, ignore the problem and pretend that deadlocks never occur in the system. That is mostly used by all the operating system. Okay, but however we will read about how to prevent deadlock, avoid deadlock, and how to recover from a deadlock if it enters into the deadlock. Okay, there are some algorithms, 2 3 algorithms are there, so we will see. Okay, so first is deadlock prevention. Prevention means don't go into the deadlock. So we have to stop the system go into the deadlock. So how to stop the system going into the deadlock? Obviously we will not we will try to break any of these four conditions. Okay, we already know these are the four conditions. If four conditions will happen at the same time, then only system will go into deadlock. So we will try to break one. Okay, if we try to break one, that means there will be no deadlock. Okay, so first condition was our mutual exclusion. How to remove mutual exclusion? Can anybody tell me how to break this mutual exclusion? But obviously we need mutual exclusion because two process cannot able to write to a single file. Okay, or two processes cannot able to write to a single variable. So we need mutual exclusion. Okay, so it is not required for shareable resources. If it is shareable resource, then it is not required. But it must hold for non-shareable resources. Some resources which cannot be shared by multiple processes at the same time. At that time, the mutual exclusion is needed. So we cannot able to do anything about mutual exclusion. So rest of the things are only upon these other three cases. Okay. So we try to break all the three cases. So next one is hold and wait condition. So in this case, condition, process is holding one and requesting one resource. Okay. So we must guarantee that whenever a process requests a resource, it does not hold any other resource. So if process is asking for other resource, then it must release all the resources that he is holding. Okay. So that means what will happen? If one process is asking for resource, it must have to leave all the resource. That means what? Hold and wait condition will never arise. Okay. So it requires the process to request and be allocated all its resources before it begin execution. There is another condition is there. This is one solution. Solution is, first solution is that to break the hold and wait condition, there is no holding. Okay. That means if processor is waiting for some resource, then it has to release all the resources that it is holding. Okay. Or the second solution is that whenever process will start execution, it has to first allocate all the resources. Okay. So whatever this process requires, all the resources has to be allocated first to this process, and then execution will begin. That means in between process is executing, it cannot able to ask for the resource. It has to hold all the resources. It asks for memory, it asks for printer, it will ask for all the resources, whatever resources it is needing. So it will hold all the resource and then it will start the execution. Okay. If it cannot able to hold all the resources, then it will not able to begin the execution. Okay. Or allow process to request resource only when the process has none allocated to it. That means there are two conditions. One is get all the resources and then start the execution of that process, or ask for the resource if you don't have any allocated resource to you. That means if that process is not holding any resource, then you can give that process one resource. Okay. If this will happen, then there is a problem called lower resource utilization or starvation also might come if you follow this type of approach. Okay. So if one process is holding all the resources, all other processes will cannot able to proceed with their processing. Okay. If one process will be allocated with all the resources beforehand, before begin the execution, and if that process is very long, then all other process will starve. So that is a possibility of starvation will come. It may prevent the deadlock, but starvation will come and all the processes will die after some time. Okay. And there is a low resource utilization. Next, what we can do is we can remove this no preemption condition. How to remove this? Obviously, we will remove this no and we will make it preemption. Okay. So if a process that is holding some resource request another resource that cannot be immediately allocated to it, then all resources currently being held by that process will be released. Okay. If process P1 is asking for R1 and R1 is already busy with other process, then all the resources P1 is holding will be released. Okay. That is called the preemption. Even if P1 is not yet completed, P1 has to release all the resources, because P1 cannot able to get that resource that is already busy by other process. Okay. So preempted resources are added to the list of resources for which process is waiting. Okay. So whatever resources you got from this process will be released to the main pool, and other processes can able to use those resources. And whatever process was asking for the resource and has not got the resource will put into wait stage. Okay. It will go to the waiting stage. Process will be restarted only when it can regain its old resources. Then it will go to waiting state and it will start executing only when it regain its old resources as well as the new ones that it was requesting for. Okay. So this is the solution for no preemption. Next is circular wait. We have to break this circular wait. So obviously we have to break the circle. We will not let it to form a circle. Okay, we will not all the processes and resources to form a circle. So to do that, we will impose a total ordering of all the resources. So we will impose a total ordering. So it is like a sorting. Okay. So what is total ordering? Example is here. Tape drive will be assigned with a value 1. Disk drive will be assigned with a value 5. Printer is assigned with a value 12. Process can only request instances of resource type Rj if and only if f of Rj is greater than f of Ri. Okay. So currently one process is holding tape drive. Okay. So that process can ask for disk drive only when the disk drive number, this Rj number, is greater than its current holding resource. So it is greater than that. Now it can able to hold this resource. Okay. So what is the use of this total ordering? We have to remove the circular weight. And why this circular weight was coming? Let's go to the previous slide and see why this circular weight was coming. Circular weight was coming because P0 is depending upon P1, P1 is depending upon P2, and somebody is depending upon Pn, and then Pn is depending upon P0. Okay, so that Pn to P0 we are removing. Okay, so that means what? P0 can depend upon P1 because 1 is greater than 0. P1 can wait for P2 because 2 is greater than 1. Okay, but Pn cannot wait for P0 because n is greater than 0. Okay, understood? So the last case we are removing so that there will be no cycle. Okay, Pn cannot able to wait for P0. So that's why this should not be bigger than this. Okay, this should wait for Pn plus 1 if available. Okay, it can wait for bigger number, but bigger number cannot wait for smaller number. Okay, so that is the case we have written here, that f of Rj, that means whatever resource you are requesting for, its number should be greater than the current whatever resource you are holding. Okay, so each process requests resource in a increasing order of enumeration. Okay, each process can ask for greater resources, but by holding greater resources, they cannot ask for the smaller resources. Okay, so that's why there will be no circle anymore, no cycle anymore. Okay, it is the prevention of the deadlock. Next, we are going for deadlock avoidance. Okay, how to avoid the deadlock? Even if these 4 conditions we cannot able to break, how to avoid the deadlock? It requires some a priori information about the processes. To avoid the deadlock, we need some a priori information about the processes. That means some additional information we need before process is executing. Okay, but mostly this never happened. So that's why there is these deadlock avoidance algorithm are very difficult to implement. That's why people never use this deadlock avoidance algorithm, because you need some additional information about the process that is not yet started executing. Okay, so what type of additional information you require? When the process will come, it will first declare how many maximum number of resources it will need, which is a very difficult task. If one process will come for execution, it has to first tell that I need a printer, I need a hard disk this much space, I need some CPU cycle of this much amount. Those things cannot be told beforehand, right? So that's why these deadlock avoidance algorithms are only in theory. It is very difficult to implement. Okay, but still we will read. So the idea is, beforehand, before process is executing, it will tell how much resource, maximum resource it will need. If it will need more than this maximum during execution, that process will be terminated. Okay, so that's why you have to tell beforehand how much maximum number of resources you are going to use during the execution. The deadlock avoidance algorithm is dynamically examines the resource allocation state. The deadlock avoidance algorithm will dynamically examine. That means it will keep on running while resource allocation. You are keep on allocating resource to each process and keep on running the this deadlock avoidance algorithm again and again and check if there is any problem. Okay. It will ensure that there can never be a circular wait condition. So why it is running? Because this deadlock avoidance will check there will be no cycle, okay, or there will be no circular wait condition. Okay, so at the end we are going to prevent this. If we will prevent this, then no need to check for other three, because any one is broken, that means deadlock is not there. Okay, so best thing is to not let any of these process go to a circular wait condition. Okay, so that is our main motive is to break the cycle. Okay, break the cycle means in this case no need to you check that there will be no formation of cycle beforehand. Okay, beforehand you have to do all these things, not during execution of the process. You can do during the execution of the process, but you have to check that they will not form a cycle. And if after allocating the resource they are forming the cycle, then don't allocate that resource. Okay, so we will see there are 2 3 algorithms are there. We will see how they run. Okay, resource allocation state, there is a resource allocation state. We have told that those will monitor this resource allocation state. Okay, is defined by the number of available and allocated resources and the maximum demand of the process. So this, what is this resource allocation state? It means we will have a count on number of available resources, how many resources are already allocated, and each process need maximum how much resource. Okay, so based on that we will count if the processes are in safe state or in unsafe state. Okay, so what is a safe state? Let's see. When a process requests an available resource, whenever a process will request, then we have to run the algorithm, deadlock avoidance algorithm, and we will check if it is in safe state or not. Okay, when a process requests an available resource, system must decide if immediate allocation leaves the system in a safe space, safe state or not. Okay, whenever somebody will ask for a resource, give me a printer. If some process will ask, before allocating that printer to that process, we will first run our algorithm and check if our system is still in safe state after allocating that requested resource. Okay, what algorithm we will run, that we will see. Okay, so currently we have to check if it is in safe state or not. Okay, then we will define what is a safe state. System is in safe state if there exists a sequence P1, P2 something up to Pn of all the processes in the system, such that for each Pi, for each process Pi, the resource that Pi can still request can be satisfied by currently available resources plus resources held by all the processes Pj, where j is less than I. Okay, so that means what? It is telling that if suppose Pi is requesting for some resource Rj, then this safe state will tell that we will find all the processes Pi, P1, P2, Pn, all the processes in the system we have to check, and we will find a sequence. Okay, what is this sequence? That means P1 will execute first, then P2 will execute next, then Pn will be executed at the end. Okay, so if we allocate that resource to the process that it is requesting, okay, if we will give that resource to this process, then after that also all processes can able to execute. Okay, that only we have to check if they can able to execute even after allocating that resource to this process, then it is in safe state. Okay, this you will be clear when we will do a problem. Okay, so just understand that there must be a safe sequence. There has to be a safe sequence. That means in this sequence, if we'll execute the processes, then we can able to achieve our goal. What is the goal? There will be no deadlock. Okay. So safe state is also explained here. That is, if Pi resource needs are not immediately available, then Pi can wait until all Pj have finished. If Py, whatever Pi is asking for the resource, if that resource is not available currently, then Pi has to wait till all other processes are finished. If these processes will be finished, they will give the resource to Pi. Okay. When Pj is finished, if this Pj will be finished, Pi can obtain needed resources. Okay. After all other process will be finished, then Pi can have the resource, execute, and return allocated resource to the resource pool, and it will terminate. When Pi terminates, Pi plus 1 can obtain its needed resource, and so on. So when P1 will be over, it will be given to P2. When P2 will be over, it will be given to P3. Like that, it will keep on running. Okay. So it will keep on running up to Pn. Then it is a safe state. Okay. So there is one example which is from the book. So in this, it is telling that we consider a system with 12 magnetic taps. So total we have 12 number of magnetic tap. Okay, magnetic tape means our hard disk, and three processes are there: P0, P1, P2. Process P0 requires 10 tape drives. P0 requires 10 number of tape drives. P1 requires 4 tape drives. P2 requires 9 tape drives. Okay, and currently this is the status. Currently P0 maximum need is 10, P1 maximum need is 4, P2 maximum need is 9, and at some given time T0, these are the number of tape drives they are holding currently. P0 is holding 5, P1 is holding 2, P2 is holding 2. So how many number of tape drives are free currently? Can anybody tell me? Here 9 tape drives are already allocated to all these three. So total 12 magnetic tape drives are there. Okay. So that means 3 are free tape drives. Okay. So 3 tape drives are free. Now what we will do? We have to find a safe sequence. Okay. What is safe sequence? How to execute these processes in a order so that all the three processes will be executed. Okay. So how to find the safe sequence? Let's start with P0. Okay. Only three free tape drives are there. Current need is 5. Means this is 5 are already allocated. So it needs another 5. Okay. Because P0 needs 10 total number of 10 number of tape drives. Okay. It has already 5. So it needs another 5. But we have only 3 left, so P0 cannot able to run, so P0 has to wait. Let's go to P1. P1 needs 4, it has already 2, we have already 3 tape drives, so we can give 2 tape drives to this guy. Okay, so P1 can execute fast, so that's why we have written P1. Okay, so after executing P1, P1 will release all the tape drives to the resource. Okay, so it will release all the tape drives. So 3 are fast there, plus 2 it has released. Okay, so total 5 number of tape drives are released. Okay, so now P1 is over. Now P0 needs 5, so P0 can get 5 and it can able to execute. So that's why P1, P0 executed. After P1, P0 executed, they will release their all the tape drives, and P2 can also execute. Okay, so that's why there is a sequence called P1, P0, P2, which is which satisfies our safety condition. Okay, just you have to do minus plus operation, nothing else. You just have to do manually. Okay, so maybe in CT1, this type of question will come, and it will ask if it is what is the safe sequence. You have to find out. Okay, understood or any doubt in this? Simple one. Okay. Just you have to do minus and plus operation, nothing else. So process P1 can immediately be allocated all its tape drive because P1 needs only 2, we have 3. So P1 is executed after this 3 plus 2, 5 are available. So this P0 needs 5, so we can give 5. P0 is also executed. After that 5 plus 5 is 10. It needs 9, 2 are already allocated. So 7 we can give from 10 and P2 also executed. Okay. So after these 3 are executed, we have got a sequence. 1 minute. Okay. So that is called the safe state. Now some basic facts are there. If a system is in safe state, that means there is no deadlock. Okay. If the system is in safe state, that means there is no cycle, so there is no deadlock. If a system is in unsafe state, then there is a possibility of deadlock. Okay. So better is how to avoid deadlock, ensure that the system will never enter into the unsafe state. That means we should always have a sequence, okay, where all the process can able to execute one after the other. Even if they cannot run parallelly, there has to be a sequence where they can run sequentially after one by one. Okay. So never enter into the unsafe state. So that's why there is a diagram. Safe state means no deadlock. Unsafe state means there might be some deadlock. So some sequence after some time it will go into the deadlock. Okay. That means there might be no sequence exist in which we can able to execute any of these processes. That means there will be in deadlock. So single instances of a resource type use a resource allocation graph. If there are multiple instances of resource type, then use Banker's algorithm. So by using this safe and unsafe concept, we developed two algorithms. One is resource allocation graph using the resource allocation graph that we have already read, and this is for only single instances of resource. If you are having only resources having single instance, then we can use resource allocation graph, and if it has multiple instances of resource, then we have to use Banker's algorithm. Okay. So Banker's algorithm we may read in the next class, but in this we will finish the resource allocation graph. Okay. That means we have to stop the cycle. That is our motive. Okay. So we define a edge called claim edge. Okay. What is claim edge? Claim edge is an edge which will go from Pi to Rj, indicate that process Pi may request the resource Rj at any point of time. Okay, it is represented by dashed line. So if P1 dot dot dot, this one means P1 may require R2 after some time. That is called the claim edge. Okay, represented as dashed line. Claim edge converts to a request edge when a process requests a resource. Okay, because we already know the information that P1 needs this resource. Currently it is holding this resource, and we are telling in dashed line that P1 will ask for R2 at any given point of time. This dashed line will be a solid line when P1 will request for R2. Okay, and when R2 will be allocated to P1, that time the arrow direction will change to R2 to P1. Okay, when it is allocated to P1, the arrow direction will change. Okay, so request edge convert to an assignment edge when the resource is allocated to the process. That means direction of the arrow will change because that will go from resource to process. Okay, when a resource is released by a process, assignment edge converts to a claim edge. If any resource will be released from this process, then it will again converted to dashed line from the solid line. Resource must be claimed a priori in the system because we have to find out which process may require which resource. So we have to know beforehand which process may need which resources. Okay. Then we will check for safety by using cycle detection algorithm. We have to find out if there is a circle is coming or not. Okay. So let's take this example. Suppose that P2 request for R2. Suppose P2 will request for R2. Although R2 is currently free, we cannot allocate it to P2. Even if R2 is free now, we cannot allocate it to P2, because if we will allocate it to P2, then there will be a circle. Okay. If currently P2, it is telling that it can claim R2 in some future time. Now P2 will request. Okay, so the arrow will come like this. It is requesting for R2. And if we will allocate R2 to P2, the line will becomes like this. Arrow will point to this side. So if arrow will point to this side, this side, this side, this side, then there will be a circle. Okay. So now what we will do, we will not allocate it to P2. Okay. The same thing, if P1 will request for R2, we cannot able to give it to P1, because if we will give it to P1, it will look like resource direction from this. No, we can give to P1 because there is no cycle. Okay, because this is coming from this direction, this is going to this direction. If R2 will be allocated to P1, it will go like this, and P1 can able to execute. Okay, P2 has to wait. Okay, but if P2 will request, we cannot able to give, even if R2 is not allocated to anyone. Okay, because we already know that P1 can ask for R2 at any given time. Okay, so we cannot allocate it to P2, since this action will create a cycle in the graph. Okay, this type of graph will come if we will allocate R2 to P2, and there will be a cycle. So in cycle detection algorithm, we have to detect this. Before allocating R2 to P2, we have to detect if we will allocate this resource to P2, then there might be a cycle or not. If we understood that there might be a cycle if we allocate this to this, then we will not allocate to P2. Okay. If P1 request R2, P2 and P1 will request R2 in this case, if this is the case currently, and if P1 also request for R2, then there will be a circle and both will go into deadlock. Okay, so that's why we will not allow this. That is called the using resource allocation graph, you can find the deadlock condition. Okay, so suppose that process Pi request a resource Rj, then request can be granted only if converting the request as to an assignment as does not result in a formation of circle in the resource allocation graph. Okay, so if P2 is requesting for R2, R2 can be assigned to P2 only if there will not be a circle in the resource allocation graph. If there is a circle, then this assignment will never happen. Okay, that is the simplest algorithm. Now time is there. Let's go into Banker's algorithm. This is also very easy. Banker's algorithm means bankers are keeping count of money. Here, this banker will keep count of resources. Okay. So multiple instances will be there. Then we will use Banker's algorithm. Single instances are there. Then you can use graph. Each process must a priori claim maximum use. So before executing, the process has to tell how many maximum resource it will use. When a process requests a resource, it may have to wait if the resource is not available, or there is not a safe sequence, then also it has to wait. When a process get all its resources, it must return them in finite amount of time. If one resource will get all the resources it needs, it has to execute quickly and it has to release all the resources for other processes. Okay, these are the conditions. So to execute the Banker's algorithm, we have to find out there are 4 different variables are there. Okay, N is number of processes, M is number of resources. Okay, small n is the number of processes, small m is number of resources. There is one array called available. Okay, in available array we will be having how much resources are currently available. That information we will keep inside this available array. Okay. So available array is length m because m number of resources are there. If available of array index j is equal to k, that means there are k instances of resource type rj is available. Okay. If available of j equal to k, then k number of instances are available for the resource rj. Okay, understand this correctly, because we will be using all these four variables in the algorithm. Max. What is max? It is a n cross m matrix 2D array. If max of ij is equal to k, that means what? If any location I comma j is equal to k, then process pi, this I is related to process, j is related to resource. Process pi may request at most k number of instances from the resource rj. Okay, because we have to tell beforehand how many maximum resource it can ask from the resource rj. So we have to tell that process pi will require k number of instances of the resource rj. Okay. Allocation is also a matrix. N into m matrix, this is n into m matrix, same size. What is the use of allocation matrix? It will tell how many resources are already allocated to the process. Okay. So if allocation of ij is equal to k, if ij place will have the value k, then process pi is currently allocated with k instances of resource rj. Okay, that is the allocation matrix. That means how many resources are allocated to each process, it will tell. It will tell each process may claim how many number of instances of the resource. This is the max. So if we will do max minus allocation, we will get need. Okay, need is max minus allocation. That means max is this many number of resources we need for each process. These many are already allocated. How many more we need? Okay, so need is the minus of this and that. Okay, so obviously this will also be a matrix. That means need of ij equal to k, then pi may need k number of instances of rj to complete its task. Okay, so after having all these variables, let's start the safety algorithm. So let's take two variable work and finish to be a vector of length m and n. Okay, this will contain how many processes are finished. This will contain how many resources are available. Okay, so that's why we will initialize work equal to available. What is available? This. How many resources are available from each resource? How many instances of resources are available? Okay, so if there are initially 5 printers are there, so obviously in printer index it will be 5. Okay, so we will initialize work equal to available. Okay, finish of I equal to false for all the processes, because it is a starting initialization phase. So all the processes have not yet started executing. Okay, that means finish, they are not finished, false. Okay, find an I such that both finish of I equal to false and need of I equal is less than equal to work. It means you have to find such a process which is not yet finished, that means false, and it needs some whatever resource it needs should be less than equal to available, because work is equal to available. Okay, so we have to find a process I which is not yet finished and it needs some resources that are already available. Then what we can do, we can finish that process, we can execute that process without any problem. Okay, because whatever the process is demanding, it is already available, so we can able to finish that process, and we will write that process name pi. Okay, because we have to form a sequence which is safe. Okay, so we have found one process I which is not yet finished and which is asking less amount of resources from the available. Okay. If this condition is false, that means if no such I exists, go to step number 4. Okay. And find out if no such processes exist whose either I value is not false or need is not need is greater than work, then you go to 4. Okay. In 4, finish check if finish of I is double equal to true for all of the I. So obviously if all finish I is equal to true, that means what? All the processes are finished, means already executed, and we got a safe state. Okay. Then after step number 2, step number 3. If we will find this, then we will go for this one. Else we will go to 4. Okay. So if this condition is true, that means we got a process I who is false, that means who is not yet executed, and its need is less than available, then work is equal to work plus allocation. What is allocation? Whatever allocation of I, that means what is allocated to I is now added to available space. Okay. That means this process I has executed, I can able to execute without any problem. So all the allocated resources that is given to I will now be added to the work variable. Why? Because it's it has to release the resources, right? I has to release the resources because it has got whatever it needs, it has executed. Now all the resources will come back to the our resource pool, and we will make finish of I equal to true. That means I is executed. Go to the step number 2. Find one more process, do these two, then do this, then go to step number 2, then find another process until n number of times you have to execute this. Okay. If at the end all finish of I is true, that means we can able to finish that. We can get all the I value to true. That means there is a safe sequence exists. If this process, if this part is false, then what? Then it is not a safety state. Okay. If all the finish of I is not true for all I, then it is not a safe state. So we will not run those processes. Okay. So that is a simple safety algorithm. Whatever, if you cannot able to understand, don't worry. When we will go for one example, you can able to understand. Okay. So a request of I is equal to request vector for process Pi. Okay. What is request of I? Whatever process Pi is requesting, that is present inside request vector. If request of ij is equal to k, that means process I is requesting rj k number of instances. Okay. What is the meaning of this one? Request ij, process I is requesting rj for k number of instances. If request of I is less than need, whatever it is requesting, this process is requesting, it is less than need, then go to the next step. If it is requesting more than what it needs, obviously we have to terminate that process. Okay. Because we have already set the maximum condition, so any process cannot go beyond that maximum. Okay. So need we have calculated by max minus allocated, right? So it should not be, whatever it is requesting, it should not be greater than or equal to the need. Okay. If it is less than equal to need, then go to step number 2, and request of I we have to check with available. Whatever it is requesting, it is available or not. If it is available, then go to step number 3. If it is not available, then you have to wait because resources are not available. Pretend to allocate requested resource to Py by modifying the state as follows. We will pretend that we have allocated the resource to the process I, okay, by available equal to available minus request. Whatever it has requested, that will be deducted from available. Allocation, it has to add to allocation. Previously it is allocated to something, now it is requesting something, it has to be added to the allocation list. Okay. then need is equal to need minus request. Okay, so whatever is needed, it is, we have to minus the request because we have already requested some resource, so we have to decrease the need. Okay, if safe, the resource are allocated to PI. So if it is safe to allocate the resource, it will be allocated to PI. If unsafe, then PI must wait. Okay, so this algorithm will keep on running whenever any process will request for um, any request will come from any process, then we have to check if safe. If safe means run this algorithm. Okay, then we will allocate everything to that process and we will run this algorithm to check if we will allocate all these things. It is falsely allocated. You can see there it is pretend to allocate. That means if we'll allocate all the requests that this process is asking for, if we'll allocate everything, now we will check for the safe state. So how to check for the safe state? This is the safety algorithm. We will run it and check if we will have a sequence of safe sequence, then we can able to allocate the resource. If from the algorithm, this algorithm, safety algorithm, we found out that all the finish of I is not true, that means it is not safe to allocate whatever this guy is requesting. So we will not allocate. Okay, understood? I think that's the simple deadlock avoidance using banker's algorithm. Okay, so in the next class we will see this example, very easy example. We have to do only addition and subtraction, nothing else. Okay, if you understood the concept, basic concept, then you can able to do it. Okay, thank you.